Такое мнение. Убивай. Нет, это плохо играет просто. Нет, надо просто все. Я не понимаю, в чем проблема-то. Вот это и было самое, да. Ну нет, наоборот. Вот это и было самое. Ну что? Да. Все зависло. Что хотел сделать? А, ну да. Ой, да ну, наоборот. А, наоборот. Да, вот это самое.
Молчание максимально.
Мяу, 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 мяу. Корневая. Корневая, слушай, да? Слушай. Деньги не надо. Ладно. Так.
Чим горячий согрец.
Скажи, сам скажи. Да, слишком изображает это из себя, как будто вообще вещай.
Танзер.
Имподант. Не помог. Новые вопросы. Що таке? Горячий, вкусный, красивый, квадратный, да, квадрат.
Welcome to another Tone-Base YouTube interview. I'm your host, Ben Lottie. I'm a pianist and head of piano here at Tone-Base. It's a real treat to be joined by pianist Avery Galliano, winner of the 2020 U.S. National Chopin Competition in Miami. You'll recognize her from her success at the recent Chopin competition in Warsaw. She was the only American to make the semifinals, but I was rooting for her for more than patriotic reasons. She plays with clarity and nuance and elegance and really organic expression. And actually, Avery, I wanted to start by thanking you personally for your exquisite voicing. I heard so many lines that I don't usually hear. Is voicing something that you're particularly attentive and sensitive to when you're practicing?
It is, and I will say that especially since these pieces that I played in the competition are works that I've lived with for quite some time, it's especially important to always discover something new. So I find it very interesting to find new voicings, even if it's not something that ends up on stage all the time. To me, it's fascinating.
First round, you're in the wrong note etude, the penultimate phrase of the A section. Okay, Avery brings out this tenor voice in her left-hand thumb, and I checked the score. Chopin actually marks two of these notes. I think it's an F sharp and an E in the left-hand thumb. Avery brings out a line from G down to D sharp, and then when it returns to that final phrase, the D sharp returns with the wrong note. Do you even remember what I'm talking about? Was this a conscious thing?
It was, and to me it fits, it completes the line.
It seems like that's one of your priorities. I mean, in the third ballade, I heard so many, not just inner voices, just voicing in general, and not random, but always with a sense of shape and direction.
First of all, you have to have a clear idea of the music and the general direction and the structure, and then you can take the time to really enjoy and explore all those details and take it apart layer by layer. And then once you've taken it apart, you have to piece it back together in a way that's comprehensible and that maintains that flow.
I had one other voicing I wanted to mention. It's not technically an inner voice, but it's during the twinkly part of the Andante spianato. You know, it's coming down, everybody brings out that inner voice in the alto, which Chopin doesn't actually mark, but you have to bring it out. You bring it out the first time. Then after the chorale, when the twinkly comes back, you actually do what Chopin says, and I don't hear anybody else do it. Do you know what I'm going to say?
I know you're talking those D's.
Those D's. Nobody brings out the D.
But he wrote them, he marked them in the score. I was listening to a masterclass Ari Vardy gave, and he kind of told a story about those Ds. He said it was almost like the clock is striking 7 times. I never thought of it that way before, but I think, Chopin marked it for a reason, and I think it's beautiful that way.
Well, I just had to indulge you on those 2 moments, but let's take a step back. Tell us a little bit about your experience in Warsaw. In general, did you feel Chopin's presence when you were there?
I definitely felt Chopin's presence. I mean, what an incredible 4 weeks. Everybody always said, oh, Warsaw's amazing, and everybody comes together for this competition, and it's really the heart, but I never understood it fully until I was there and living it, and I was just blown away. The people love Chopin and love music and culture so much, and to be in an environment where you feel that camaraderie, where you feel that everybody is in this together, was very special. And I got a few chances in my spare time to visit some Chopin landmarks. I went to his statue in eVGENIY Park, and I also went to the church where his heart is and had a little moment there. That was the day before my first round. So it was just very special.
So I understand we have a new CD coming out. It's being released by the Steinway & Sons label entitled Reflections, and it includes works by Haydn, Chopin, Schumann, and Thomas Adès. Can you tell us a little bit about the concept for this album? Who or what is being reflected?
Myself, basically. When you take a look at these pieces, these are all pieces that I've worked on throughout various stages of my life. The Schumann Abegg variations, for example, I learned early on, and it's actually the piece I auditioned to Curtis with back in 2015 when I was 14 years old. So it really is a reflection of my journey as a musician and as a pianist, and it takes me to a reflective place because it allows me to look back on all of these experiences that have really shaped who I am.
And you're actually joining us from your Curtis dorm room, and it sounds like Abegg variations were your ticket into this school. Can you just talk about, like, when you're actually playing? You know, does it bring back the memories? Do you feel that you've grown with the piece?
Every time I come back to this piece, it's very nostalgic because I have such a strong opinion of how the piece should be played, and yet as I change and grow, sometimes I discover new things, such as new voicings, right? What's interesting for me, especially, is I notice, for example, technically, how things feel different now than they did when I first learned the piece, and my technique has changed so much. But at the same time, I can remember what it was like struggling with some variations at the beginning. And then some things are still difficult. It doesn't matter how many years you spend with it. It's still going to pose the same problems and challenges.
Are there specific aspects of your technique that you consciously watched evolve? Like, do you have any specifics? Sound, control, just different aspects that maybe would have made your Abegg at age 13 or 14 sound different than it does on your album today?
I would say coloring and sound production is something I'm always striving to work on and improve.
Now, one of your teachers, Gary Graffman, shameless plug, tone-based artist. So is Ari Vardy, by the way. So 2 shameless plugs here. Go watch their lessons on tone-based. I asked Gary in our minibar happy hours what Isabella Vengerova taught him. What did she impress on him when he was your age? And he said sound. What were her strengths as a teacher? What did
Sound. She hated an ugly sound.
Is Gary focusing on sound when you work with him?
Gary focuses on sound. Gary also focuses a lot on what is in the score and allowing his student to respect that while also giving them the freedom to express their own artistic self. And I think that's what makes him such a wonderful teacher, is that he never tries to fit you into any mold, but he allows you to explore your own expression. And so all of his students have such unique ways of playing, but what ties us all together is the way we're able to look at the score and notice the details and respect what the composer's written. And I would say Bob McDonald does the same thing, and he's really wonderful that way too.
I know Bob from Juilliard, and he's a kind of a musical doctor, isn't he?
Yeah, Bob has a very hands-on approach, and he works a lot on technique, but what I say is by addressing technique, he addresses all other facets of playing. And so he's able to look at you when you play and know what's at the root of the problem. And when I say root, I really mean the root of the problem, because once you solve that, then everything else just, it's like magic. It all starts working a million times better.
I once had a master class with him in Brahms' B major trio, and there were some octave passages that I was playing like crap, And he just came up to me and he said, "You just need to go in here. Why aren't you going in?" And I went in, and suddenly it was easy. And I was like, "How did you know? What did you like?" Most teachers don't come up and say, "Just tweak this," and then suddenly it's better. It feels better. Do you feel that with the ball?
I do, all the time, and it's amazing. They are such minor changes. Sometimes it's the smallest of things, just the way your weight on your hand or your arm shifts a little bit, or just the timing of all of that when you strike a note. It just totally changes everything.
I can tell you were doing something with your hand.
the in thing.
We have confirmed Avery does have arms and hands, although you can't see them, but they're there. Now, we want a little bit more. We're talking about teachers, and I'm curious about your earlier foundation. How did your teacher, Marina Alexieva, help you in sort of creating this foundation, which has proven so fruitful?
What I'm most grateful to Marina for was that she never gave me a piece that was beyond my capability. She never pushed me to be more than what I was. What I mean, for example, is I have very small hands. She never gave me pieces that required me to overstretch. When I was studying with her, at least in the first few years, I couldn't reach an octave. And so she was very conscious of that when she selected pieces. She also always helped me choose pieces that she felt were fitting to my character and my personality. Things that she knew I would enjoy playing. That was very important to her, is to never break your student's spirit, but to preserve their love for music. And that is hard to find in teachers sometimes.
What were some of the other milestone pieces that she gave you that sort of were the right piece at the right time?
Before Curtis, I learned the Rachmaninoff Corelli variations, and I remember that was a big step for me because I never played Rachmaninoff before, and obviously it demands much more pianistically. And for someone like myself with small hands, that was another leap for me.
There's this myth that you can't play Rachmaninoff unless you have big hands. I always point to Alicia De La Rocha's Rock 3 or anything Ashkenazi plays. These people have baby hands. What does it feel like playing Rachmaninoff with small hands? What is your reach? What are the sort of tricks, or what is the technical approach that allows you to play with such command and authority and sort of avoid the difficulties of these large spans?
It's not avoiding the difficulty. There's no way to avoid it or get around it other than, for example, I break chords, right, depending on where it is on the keyboard. So I just have to break things. Sometimes I take things with the right hand or split it between the two if it fits. Sometimes it's a little more of a struggle, but I make it work.
I don't even notice when I listen to your playing that you're doing all these broken chords because of your hand size. It just sounds natural.
Well, that's really the point, is that the music always drives it. And so when I play, I don't think, oh gosh, I have small hands, but I'm just thinking, how can I make this sound good, and how can I play what I play and just make music.
Staying with your background, but moving away from your teachers, that's a kind of direct influence. Let's talk about your other influences. You grew up with a lot of different music around you: classic rock, pop music, of course classical music. You studied violin as well as piano. Can you talk about these eclectic influences and sort of how they shaped your musicianship in general?
Well, I grew up with all of this music in the house. My parents aren't musicians, but they love music, and so I was exposed from the very beginning to all these different genres, and it gave me inspiration, and I still listen to all this music today, not just classical music. In terms of pop, I actually write pop songs myself for fun as a hobby.
Let's talk about that for a minute. So what do these pop songs that you write sound like? Because I just know your musicianship from, your ballades and Scherzi and nocturnes and mazurkas. I imagine the pop music you write doesn't sound much.
No, not at all. It's really, when you think of pop, that's what it is. It's just the chords at the piano, very simple stuff with melodies, and I write lyrics. And the goal is to find a producer, hopefully, and publish. That's the dream, I will say.
Now, are you going to change your name to some kind of pop star name like Lady Gaga, or are you going to keep Avery Galliano?
I thought about it, you know, maybe save Avery Galliano for the piano, for classical piano, and maybe come up with a stage name for pop.
Maybe Lady Gaga Liana.